Thank you, everybody. It is Real Talk with Ryan, and it's September 16th. And we are so blessed and privileged to have Sheri Hopkins, the founder of Black San Diego, as our featured guest today. And it's always exciting to meet people and to hear their story. And you and I met last week for the first time, and I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who are connected to you. And as I've learned about you through them, having met you and then hearing your story, it's inspiring to me. And it was exciting to see what you've done with the community and how you've made an impact on them. And really, the sky's the limit. So I'm thrilled that you're able to come and join today. And I know everyone on the call today, but also listening in the future, is going to have something that they're inspired by from you. So with that, thank you so much for being our guest today. And let's start with just tell us briefly, what is Black San Diego and what does your organization do for the community?
Right. So Black San Diego is a platform for Black-owned for Black-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and Black professionals in San Diego. And it started 4 years ago. And the reason being is just we needed a platform just to support Black-owned businesses. And so what we strive to do is to kind of keep them going. For me, like I go to a restaurant or somewhere, and then the next week that business was gone, and we were like, why? Like, what happened? And realizing that they didn't have the tools and resources to sustain. So we started creating resources and tools, and just really like an overall online community to be able to support them and kind of keep their business thriving.
Love it. Did something like this ever exist in San Diego, or did you have to sort of create it from scratch?
People have tried, and it's the same thing. It's always been like a fly by night. And I think we definitely had to start from scratch. And how it really just kind of started was my it's two of us, my business partner, Tanisha, she posted one day, and we're childhood friends. We've been knowing each other since we were 9, so basically almost 30 years. And she posted on Facebook, like, hey, I'm looking for all the Black owned businesses. And people started making comments like, oh, I own one, I own one. And next thing you know, we had a directory of like 20. And so then we started talking, and we realized now, here we are 4 years later, we have 600 businesses.
Wow.
And people don't realize that there are a lot of Black owned businesses, and we probably have been to them plenty of times, but didn't realize they were Black owned. So we definitely had to start literally from scratch. And I say we're still creating this business and doing this business model because nobody's ever, well, I won't say they've never done it, they have, but not to the point where we're trying to get to.
And you have how many total users or members do you have that are following right now?
Right. So our Facebook group has 33,000 members. And
Wow.
then our IG has about 7,500 members.
That's amazing. Is that what you expected or ever envisioned when you just thought this up?
No, because literally I wanted to just do a networking event like one time and be done. And here we are 4 years later, and we're still going. So it's grew. And I've been in a lot of big online like Facebook groups, but the amount of traffic that we get in there is just like unreal. I think and our engagements are like 150,000 in like 28 days. So, and we get about over 1,000 posts a day in the group and just the comments. So it's not just like a dead group. It's really just people really actively looking for resources, help, a Black owned business. It's really just like an online community that we've been able to create.
How has COVID, because we all talk about this, and there isn't really a single person anywhere, and maybe well, at least in this country, who's not in some way impacted by this and has had to make some life adjustment. You and I were talking before we started about just dealing with online learning with our kids home and how
Right.
chaotic and different that has been. How has the platform changed or improved or adjusted because of this new everyone at home state of things today?
If anything, like our engagement has probably went up. I think we had like 200 posts a day to over 1,000 posts now because more people are at home. They're looking for, they got time to talk now, so they go on there, ask the same questions over and over. Hey, where can I go get a haircut? Or hey, where can I go find X, Y, and Z? And it's like the same question over and over. And they can use a search function on in the group, but I think a lot of times people just want that conversation. So if anything, it has helped our engagement. But then I realized that it created a lot of, I think people just started getting really creative with their business. You know, if you're in a building, a brick and mortar, but your brick and mortar is like shut down, so now you have to go virtual. And so I know a lot of fitness trainers were creating like channels or like online yoga. And so what we've seen, so we try to capture all those and put them on our website. Like, hey, at 9 o'clock, yoga is here. 10 o'clock, IG, go on here for this training. So if anything, like we've been able to go virtual. I think for us, like as a business though, we've kind of most of our revenue was coming from advertising, and since there's no events, you can't go out and play, we really don't, we kind of lost like our revenue, so we had to get creative in our business model as well so that way we could still generate some type of cash flow within Black San Diego.
The community seems to have rallied around you and around those pivots, and it would be so difficult for so many to find an opportunity to get their message out without you. That has to be rewarding to see all the effort paying off in especially a time when there wouldn't be a platform otherwise.
Right. No, it definitely is. We did a survey, I think, kind of like right before COVID, and we just kind of put the survey out like, is Black San Diego helpful to your business? You know, how many clients have you received? Because we really wanted to kind of gauge if it was really working. And one business owner, she actually just started her own spa, which is, I went there yesterday and actually took a tour, and it was really nice. But she started a spa, and she said that she's received 500 to 600 clients just from
Wow.
people in Black San Diego. When I got married last year, our cake, the person who made our cake, she said that she's received anywhere from 100 to 200 clients just from Black San Diego. So when I look at the average of pricing for like her cake, you figure she's probably made 20 to 30K just from Black San Diego alone. Whereas if she didn't have Black San Diego, she wouldn't have been able to do something like that. Because then it's like, where do you post that? It's word of mouth, but now you have a network of 33,000 possible people that's going to see your post, that's going to possibly order a cake from you.
Boy, I know the community so appreciates that opportunity,
Right.
and in many cases, it may have saved their business. And so, congratulations! I mean, such a
Thank you.
inspiring thing that you've done. This is Real Talk with Ryan. We're here with Sheri Hopkins, founder of Black San Diego. The chat box is open, so if you have questions, you can chat in your questions. I'll work them in. There'll also be a time at the end for live questions without the recording. So if you have things you want to ask Sheri directly live, you'll be able to do that after at the end. You talked about getting married last year, and you're not just the founder of Black San Diego. You're also a real estate broker and a licensed real estate professional. You have a family with multiple kids who you're
A
dealing
lot of
with.
kids.
Uh,
Yes.
you've got a soccer mom where you've got to handle carting them to different events. That's
Right.
a lot, and that's pulled totally different directions all the time. We had Betsy Lynch from the Jewish Community Center a couple weeks ago on, and she talked about balance and said there's no such thing as balance. Really, it's kind of finding the state that you can exist in where you do good for people. How do you work through, I'm not even going to try to say balance, how do you work through handling all those different things that tend to compete with each other to stay any kind of sense of normal or sane?
Um, so if you would have asked me that question a year ago, I would have been total scatterbrain and so like you think I was being pulled in different directions now. I literally was like on every board. I was on real estate boards. I was like on everything because people wanted access to me, and they felt that if I was on their board, I was going to bring Black San Diego. I met this amazing life coach, and I resigned from everything. I like took everything off my plate and then slowly started adding things back onto my plate. And he was like, "What are your values? What is important to you?" Of course, family, my time. So whatever kind of infringes on that, I started saying no. So I say no a lot. Um, but how I find that balance is really just I only have enough on my plate, and I create boundaries. You know, even with clients. Like last night, how I went to the spa, my clients calling me like, "No, I'm done. I'm off. I'm at the spa. I'm relaxing." Um, and really, Google Calendar like helps me. So I everything like showings are in my calendar. Sunday night, I'm doing a calendar. Everything's there, so I don't overlap. And when I anything that we're doing virtual learning, so hey, my kids' time is my kid time, and if you can't really get with that schedule, then I'm not the realtor for you, or I'm not Black San Diego for you, because I used to feel that because I am Black San Diego, I have to say yes. And what I realized is that not everybody deserves access to me, and it doesn't matter if I am Black San Diego. So the balance has been for me is just saying no. Like that is just my balance, to be like, no, I can't do that because I have X, Y, and Z. And I used to feel like if I said no, people were gonna be like, she thinks she's better than everybody. I felt like people were just gonna really take that to heart. But I realized when I say no, people respect me more and they respect my time. And so for me, it was like just working through it and like realizing that I have the power and control of my own time.
That's boy, that's a great story. The life coach, did you seek the life coach out and say, I need help? Or did you know them and just start talking and then discovered, hey, wow, this is a problem for me and I need to do something about it? How was that process for you?
So he was actually, we had a mutual friend and we got connected. And then when I started talking about, he started asking me all these questions like, well, why? And why do you do this? And why do you do that? And I felt a little under attacked at first, but he was like, I want to help you because you're doing too much. And then I was like, wait, what? So here we are like a year and a half later, and he's been very helpful to, I feel like everybody needs a life coach. Like I just feel that way because we can't do life alone. Like I don't have all the answers. So for me, it's just more so like he was able to kind of give me that balance and that confidence to be like, you can say no, like you're not the community alone. And I think even with Black San Diego, with me, it's me and my partner Tanisha against 33,000 members. And people are like, oh, I think you should do this. I think you should create this. And we have to tell them, like, we're not the community. You can create it. We'll support it. Because everybody feels that if we create it, then it's just better or something. So I think for me, it was like with the life coach, he just kind of told me, like, no, they're not. You're Sheri. You're not Black San Diego.
Sheri, you talked about people trying to create content, and you talked about being able to say no. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but we have a question from one of the visitors, guests today, around any kind of racial or social justice issues through the platform. How do you filter or manage or handle that, or does it allow for that kind of content so that if people are presenting or preparing a platform to say, I want to use it for this thing I'm trying to promote, how do you qualify or filter that so that it's still an effective use of the platform?
Um, so anybody can join the group. It's just not just for the Black community because we know at the end of the day, money is green, and everybody can come in and support Black-owned businesses. So it's really just for a group to where you can go on there and say, you know what, hey, I want to support a Black-owned business too. We just ask that you don't promote your own business in there because then it's counterproductive to what we're actually trying to, achieve. We every now and then will have like some type of issue within the group. Somebody who's not Black will just, we've had issues on IG where we're like, oh, this is a hate group because you're saying Black San Diego, or you're dividing us. And I remember when we first started, we were trying to get a banner made that said Black San Diego. There was a printing company that said, I don't feel comfortable with creating that banner. And we were like, wait, what? So then we found a Black owned printing company to go ahead and print the banner. So for us, it's like really trying to educate people that we're not a hate group. We're not trying to cause division within, San Diego, we're Black here and that's it. It's really just a group to just support Black owned businesses and just for a space that we can be comfortable in talking about issues because I feel like representation matters. And really, when everything's kind of going on with the media, with, if there's like injustice, it really kind of gives us a safe space just to talk without fear of somebody being like, oh, you're being racist, because we're expressing our views, because our views may not be, the way we express our views may be the same way that somebody else may be. So in that sense, if it kind of gets too out of control, we ask people nicely, like, hey, relax because we want you here, but please respect the goals of the group. And if not, then we just remove them from there. We don't have to remove a lot of people because they get it. But every now and then we got to remove somebody.
We talked in previous episodes, we've talked about people come up with these barriers, right? And you've got these passions for what matters to you and promoting the community and doing all the things that your platform does for so many. It's so honorable and so exciting to see the impact. But then you get those that come in, like you talked about, and try to tear it down. And that can be really discouraging. And it's always interesting. And I learned so much from those who, one, have the personal focus to say, this is meaningful to me and I'm going to survive. Or I have the stamina to overcome these obstacles. Where does that come from in you when those kind of things come up and try to stop you in your tracks? How do you push forward and push through and keep advancing?
Creating things like Black San Diego. The idea came about because I'm a realtor. I've been in real estate for about 7 years. And I remember when I was trying to grow my business, I would go to networking events. So like I'm already shy. So for me to like come out of my comfort zone and already go to events, that gives me anxiety in itself. But then when I go into these spaces and I'm the only Black one there, it makes me even more comfortable. And then the group, not even the group, like the room they would make me feel like I am Black, like I'm an outcast. And like I would have to like go into this room, head held high, and like shoot off like, well, I have a bachelor's degree in finance. I'm an accountant because I was an accountant at that time. I have my own real estate company. I have like really list my whole resume. And then they're like, oh, come sit at the table with us. Like I had to beg for a seat at the table. And a lot of times I would walk out and I would get in my car and it was like, hey, take the mask off, get home. But I would be so frustrated. And there would be times where I would be crying because I felt defeated because I'm just trying to do real estate, but now I have to be the Black realtor too. And so I don't want to do that. So I felt that if I feel that way, I wonder if others felt that way too, because there's never really been a networking event that I went to that was diverse. It was either one extreme to the next. There was nothing in between. So I was like, well, I want to create a networking event for us, for my community. And that's how kind of Black San Diego kind of came about, was creating an event. Our first event had over 100 Black owned businesses in there where we just kind of talked and they were like, you should do this again. And so for me, like overcoming, yeah, it's frustrating, but it's me creating a solution to that frustration. And that's why I said like Black San Diego. So then I'm seeing other things. Okay, you feel that way? Then let's overcome this. I can easily just be a hermit and shut down and be like, I can't do this anymore. But I feel like I don't want to do that. And I don't want others to feel that way too if they don't feel strong enough to, create something like Black San Diego.
Yeah, it's interesting when we think about where we're at and you think about networking events in general. And right in this environment, there's all this virtual events. I mean, Rick and I were talking, he's on the call today. He did a national virtual networking event, which would never have been possible 6 months ago. But there's all this traditional networking groups and things like chambers of commerce are out there. And they follow this very old model that don't tend to either be effective or they don't speak as well to a diverse small business owner base. do you see yourself as a supplement to that, a change from that? How do you look at the traditional chambers and those traditional networking events or networking groups and position what you're doing differently, or how that speaks to that space that's missing?
Right. So definitely we are. I feel like because I'm a small business owner and I've felt like I would go to networking events and like, oh, like I'll get stuck in a corner. I'll get stuck talking to the same person the whole entire night. So the way we kind of structure ours is that we rotate. So you have about 10, 15 minutes where you're talking and then you have to rotate. And like when I would go to other networking events and I would tell people like, hey, I'm not trying to tell you how to run it, but I feel that it'd be more beneficial if you tell somebody, hey, rotate, because it becomes cliquish
Yeah.
where you're just talking to the people that you came with, or somebody like me who I'm shy and I'll just get stuck talking to the same person, or people like, oh, you're Black San Diego, and they want to take all my time at the networking event. But if somebody's on the mic like, hey, switch, then you can kind of be able to talk to somebody else. We're doing we would do like raffles. You know, Black owned businesses would go ahead and donate a gift certificate or something from their business, because that was a way of getting in front of consumers. And we would just do raffle off prizes like that, and then we'll give them the business owner a chance to speak. But then not only that, like at the beginning of it, we would pass the mic around, and you had a 30 seconds or less commercial, and we made sure everybody kept in that 30 seconds, because you should be able to sell yourself within that 30 seconds. Because in the first 30 seconds, if you haven't caught that person's attention, most likely they don't want to do business with you. So for us, it was just more about just creating the community relationship, like business to business relationship, rather than just going there and having like a social hour or a happy hour. We really wanted people to leave with, I mean, I could leave with a bunch of business cards, but most of the time I got a stack of business cards like in a box that I've never called them. So for us, it was like really creating something, the problems that we saw in networking events, and really kind of creating solutions to them. So that way people can connect and create that business to business relationship. So when we walk out of there, it's like, cool, I want to do business with this person and I want to build a relationship with them.
Love it. You talked about in your own world being a business owner and going to these events and trying to find business. And if anyone has questions, be thinking about them for the end, but you can also chat them in here. But I know a lot of our listeners and people that'll watch us afterwards are business owners. And you learn so much about someone's past, right? From their path, their journey that they've gone on. And it takes immense courage to pick up and stop from a corporate train standpoint, right? I'm over in the corporate world and I'm climbing this ladder, I'm doing these things, and that's kind of this career path, to an immediate pivot into, okay, now I'm going to try to do this on my own. I'm going to build my own business. I'm going to run my own business. I'm going to go to these events. I'm going to do all these things that's necessary to sustain that business. And it's fascinating to me how someone has that courage to take that step. What was your journey like as you were trying to make that adjustment, make that pivot to jump in and say, I can do this on my own?
Well, God has a funny way of making you move your feet, because I did not see myself being this whole business owner like that. I watched my mom be a business owner. She owned a daycare for, I don't know, longer than I've probably been like alive. You know, my mom has always been an entrepreneur, but I saw the ugly side of being an entrepreneur, and I didn't want that for myself. And I was like, oh no, that's too much. I'm going to corporate America, work my 9 to 5, and go on about my business, take my vacation days and whatever. But my life coach was like, I think you can make a really good career out of being in real estate and then also Black San Diego. But I'm like, no, I want to be an accountant. So he was kind of like, I think you should create a set a date of when you're going to quit your corporate America job. And I was like, okay. So I set it for February of this year. And we got to October and I said, yeah, I thought about it. I'm not going to quit. He was like, but wait a minute, what happened? I was like, nah, I kind of like my job and I'm not going to quit. I don't feel like I can do it. I was holding on to that direct deposit. You know, I know that every 2 weeks I'm getting a check. Real estate is like, you can have one hot month, months later, you have another hot month. Like, it was too risky. And unfortunately, I was in a position where I was being discriminated in my job. And as much as I was fighting and fighting to hold on to the job, literally January, it was like a week before I hit my 1 year mark at that company, I walked out. I handed my letter in, was like, I'm done. I met my February deadline of saying I'm gonna quit, but I was forced out. But I know that within 30 days of me quitting my job, I actually made my accounting salary in 30 days from real estate. And then I set a goal for this year. I wanted to make 6 figures in real estate, and I made that in 4 months. So for me, it was like, God was like, okay, you don't want to quit? I'm going to force you to quit. I'm going to put your back up against the wall and make you quit. And he did. And I'm thankful for it because I didn't know COVID was going to happen. And now here I am. COVID happened. I'm at home with my kids all the time, and I have flexibility to kind of do, like, I went to Vegas a couple weeks, like during the middle of the week because I can, so I know that entrepreneurship is ugly, but it doesn't have to be ugly. And so I think that for me, I was forced out, but I also know that taking that leap is like the biggest thing. And I feel that you can do it. And I feel like I always pray, no matter where I end up, please allow me to land on solid ground. And I feel like that's where I'm at, and that's where I've been at. So take the leap. That's what
Take
I
a
say.
leap. I love it. Take a leap. If you hadn't engaged with a life coach and you weren't already setting those dates and had already started thinking about how do I do this, right? What are the opportunities for me? And what would I do if? And you start thinking about those things and you set that date. Would it have been, would you have ever even put that resume letter or that resignation letter in, even though that was kind of forced on you? Would you have just pivoted and gotten another job? Or was it because you had done the prep work, the planning work, thoughtful work, that you knew that there was a plan that you were able to jump faster when the opportunity came?
Yes, I mean, I had already had the plan. I mean, I started my company 3 years ago. So, I mean, it was always there, and I was always making the same amount of money that I was making in corporate America. But like I said, it was scary. I was holding on to that direct deposit, and without realizing that I have opened myself up to more time to work less. And then not only that, more time to be able to focus on my business and make way more money. And for me, it's not even about the money. I always tell people, and I especially tell my kids, chase the passion and the money will follow. So even though I don't make a lot of money from we don't make really anything from Black San Diego, and I don't make anything directly, but I do feel that my real estate business company has been successful because of the work that I do in Black San Diego. And it's crazy because I created Black San Diego to help my business, but I don't even promote my company in the group, that's what it's for. But I feel like I don't have to. People kind of just, hey, you're Black San Diego and you're a realtor, that can be my realtor. So I've been able to kind of like create that. So I think that, yeah, the planning is there and have a plan, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. And for me,
Yeah.
it has to be perfect before I do anything. And even starting my company, I was calling my dad, like, Dad, like, I'm going to do this. I was reading this. He said one day to me, can you just start the damn company already? Because I'm tired of you talking about it. And I was like, oh, okay. Started the company, and here we are. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just have to put it out there.
I look back for me, and I think back at pivotal points where I got the right push from the right person at the right time, right? And then I had to be willing and open to receive it. And that doesn't mean that there weren't people trying to push me in the right direction and I resisted, right?
Right.
But I can look back. In the moment, you don't recognize it, but as you look back, you start to highlight it. You talked about your life coach. You talked about your dad. Who else has been one of those people that has pushed you at the right time, that's given you that confidence or that encouragement to take those steps?
So definitely my husband. The day that I quit, I felt so empowered. I was so happy to be leaving because I had enough. But I remember when I got home, so I'm a crybaby. I came home and I started crying. He's like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "Because I quit my job. I don't have, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm just having a meltdown." He looks at me. He says, "You see this car? We're like in the driveway." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm not worried." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Because as long as we have this car in this driveway and Uber Eats is still working, you're going to be okay." Meaning that no matter what, I know you're going to hustle to make it work. I know that you're going to figure out the money aspect. You know, he's like, if real estate don't work, you're going to figure out some way to work because that's just like how you are. And I remember I kind of started laughing because I was like, me, Uber Eats? But he's like, no, like, I just know that no matter what, you're going to be fine. So he's been putting up with this whole like crazy hours and all this other stuff. So he's been like really supportive. He's in the military, so we just he's just been supportive to everything. He listens to my real estate stories and all my clients because I have a lot of them. But he's just been there for everything. So.
Well, that's great to hear. I was going through some work this morning on some planning, and one of the comments came back is share with your family kind of what your plan is, right? What your goal is, and get their take. And I started listing out, well, what does she want? My wife want from me? You know, what is it that I want for me? And sometimes those will line up really carefully, and sometimes they don't. And trying to reconcile those is difficult. How did you go through that process with him? Because did you just walk home and say, I quit today, and that was the first he'd heard of it? Or did you actually go through this dialogue around, here's options, what do you think, what am I doing, and really work through a process where you collaborated on it?
So we actually, the day that I quit, so how I ended up quitting, I was in like a meeting. My boss embarrassed me like in front of everybody, and I had enough. And he already knew what was going on, and we actually had lunch that day, and I told him, like, we were like sitting down at lunch, and I was so mad, like I'm going completely off. And he was like, can you just quit already? And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, oh, so I can quit? Like, are you okay with me quitting? He was like, I'm just tired. Like, you're going through it. Like, we got to figure out something. I was like, okay. So then I went back to work and I quit. So when I got home, he was like, wait a minute, you quit? I was like, but wait, you told me that I could quit. So what's the problem, you know? So I think that it was kind of already there, like talking about it. And he was just like, I support you. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, we're not poor. We're not hurting. If worst case, like I'm super like savvy with budgeting. We bought a home that fits either one of the other salary. So we weren't going to be struggling. We weren't going to be homeless. So he just knew that it was just going to work no matter what we need to do. So.
Wow. That's fantastic. It so much of that is so applicable in so many areas. I know a lot of people take that away. I know I've got notes to take that away and say, all right, it's an inspiring story. So anybody has any more questions, you can chat them in. We're going to go to live questions here in a few minutes. But a couple more questions for you. As you're working towards building Black San Diego and building that community and creating opportunities for people who have businesses or have products or whatever to that community, what's next? What are some of the things that you want to bring to the communities? I know you and I talked about some products and some support and help that you could bring to some of these business owners and some of these community members. Talk to us about what's next for Black San Diego and what people can expect to see soon.
Right. So when we started, we went LLC, and actually we just branched off and went to nonprofit status because we know that we can help our community more by creating that nonprofit. So what we're building out right now is workshops, and the workshops are going to consist of just like general business classes, bookkeeping, insurance, and even before that, we actually just created our compliance program. And what the compliance program is that business owners have to have 6 items. And 6 items consist of like business insurance, checking account, EIN, business license, permits, all those things to be like a legal business. As we've been doing this and researching Black San Diego, we realized that a lot of business owners are operating, but don't have their proper paperwork. So we want to make sure that business owners are doing business the correct way. So we've actually done that. And then we realized that they're missing the educational component of business. I know for me, like even though my mom was an entrepreneur, she didn't really teach me how to be an entrepreneur. I just remember seeing her be an entrepreneur. So what we're trying to do is really kind of get these business owners and teach them, and just so they can think bigger outside of San Diego, you know, they can maybe go statewide or even bigger so that way they can compete on a bigger level. So that's what we're kind of going towards. And even just like creating, like we want to do like kid classes and kind of, we learned, somebody created a post like, hey, my dog's an entrepreneur. And there was a bunch of people posting their kids had their own business. And they were like 10, 11, 12, 13. So I think really kind of capturing that. And because we do have so much content in the group, we have literally been able to create business models based off of what we're lacking or what we see lacking or what people are complaining about in there. I'm all about solution based. So if I see a problem, we're trying to figure out how to create a solution for it. So that's kind of the direction we're going for Black San Diego. And I think even on a bigger scale would be to create a hub, you know, kind of these business owners that don't have a brick and mortar or can't really afford it, then maybe it could be like a pop-up, you know, on Monday, you know, so-and-so's in there selling cookies or something, and that's their day to do, have their business day. So that like a year ago, we created Black Las Vegas with a childhood friend that lives in Vegas. So for me, I think for not even just me, for us, it's like bigger. It's on a bigger scale and really kind of going city to city and state to state, creating the model and then kind of selling the model to other cities and states so that way they can help their community as well.
Love it. Thank you for that vision. I know that the communities we all live in need it. The members need each other, and by elevating each other, they elevate everyone. And so we love your cause, love what you're working on, love bringing the education component, and thank you for that effort in the community. We're getting ready to go into live questions, but I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And I go back to something that happened with me. You know, I went through now a couple different financial crisis problems back in 2008, and I was forced to really repurpose and rebuild my business, in a lot of ways fire myself, and had to come to a scenario where I had to decide what I wanted for me. And years later, someone asked me, how hard was it to make that pivot or make that decision? And I said, really, it was 6 months to do it all and 10 years to decide. And you talked about some of that, about thinking about it, and then deciding. And as your life coach was working on it, helping you through that, you got to that point. My question's specific, though, around the learn to say no, because I have a huge problem with this personally, where I get stretched and it's my own fault. But how hard was it, or how long did it take you to both decide, realize you had to decide, second, then decide, and then third, to actually do something about it? How long did it take for you to get to that point where it was actually effective for you?
Ooh, I I would say probably like almost a year, like to be honest, because it was, and I think even now, like I'm still a work in progress, and I tell people that like I'm not perfect, I don't know all the answers, I'm here, like I'm learning just like everybody else. But I think for me, it really took like a solid year because I was feeling uncomfortable, and I felt like I was gonna lose people, and but then I realized that I gained more of me, and then not only gaining more of me, but I also gained like quality, like better quality of clients, better quality of friends, better quality of network. And even over the last few months, I realized that my circle has changed, my friends have changed, my conversations have changed. And I think it's all because I've said no. And I'll have a problem with like hanging on to people too long because I feel that as I'm climbing up the mountain to success, of course you want everybody to come along with you, but then it's like you're being weighed down when you're doing that. So how to like cut people off? And I can't do this, I can't do that, no, I can't go here, I can't do these things. And I feel better because I'm like, I would stretch myself so thin that, remember, I would cry, baby, I would cry because I was so overwhelmed and I was failing because there's only 24 hours in a day, and if there's 30 people that want an hour of your time, like somebody's gonna lose out. And I felt that my real estate was losing out. My kids were losing out. The things that really mattered to me was losing out. And I was like, how is that beneficial to me and what I'm trying to achieve? So it literally is like, hey, no, I can't do that. No, I can't. Even like with my agents, and I tell them, they were like, they would come to our meetings late. No, I tell them my time is valuable and I expect you to be here on time every time. And if you can't do that, then I don't have to hold meetings because I don't need you, you need me. And they were like, excuse my language, they're like, oh shit, like let me get it together, and like really kind of going in there and like being on time, because setting those expectations was like everything for me. And when you set those expectations, either they have to meet it or they're not the people that need to be in your life.
Well, I think we can all learn something from that. I think Larry's probably smiling behind his picture at this is a conversation he and I had today for me. And so your story is inspiring. The community work is amazing, and our whole community is better off because you're in it. And so on behalf of all of them, on behalf of San Diego and all of us on the call, thank you so much, Sheri, for what you do. Um, our lives are better because of you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank
We
you.
really
Thank you for
appreciate being on. All right, we're going to go into questions. Thank you so much.
having me.